Welcome, everybody. Welcome to use the SAS Modulars as your benchmark assessments. And we have quite a few people coming today. This is obviously a hot topic, and I'm fascinated. I think it's the best idea in the world. Well, let's go to the next, what's on the next page? So you have to, Ken, I'm going to introduce us after you. Oh, I guess I won't introduce us yet. So one more second and I'll introduce us. Right now I'm going to introduce Demonstrate Success, who a lot of you know at this point. We have, how many coaches do we have? 5? 4, 5? And then we have a whole bunch of people who don't work for the company that we bring in. We do ELA and math, culture and climate, SEL stuff, PLC training. And over the last year of the pandemic, it's been a year, we have helped through webinars and through online over 30,000 educators, which is kind of cool. Next slide. I want to thank that before I introduce us, I want to thank the DOE for putting on this series of webinars. They are supporting everybody doing that. And also thank you to all the teachers who have made it so far through this year. And if you've made it this far, I think you can make it through the rest of the year. Everyone will be muted throughout the webinar except for Ken and Heather, and I will not be muted. But at the end, if people have questions that we haven't answered and you want to actually ask them in person, we will unmute you and you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you and you can ask. And definitely ask questions as we go. I will interrupt Ken and ask him when they pop up, or when it seems appropriate, I will ask him. So when you ask a question, if you could put it in the question area instead of the chat area, Heather and I are going to monitor the questions, and sometimes we forget to look at the chat. But if you want to give everybody some information, you can put it in the chat. And tomorrow you will get an email that has the presentation, the PowerPoint, or a link to a folder that has the presentation and the certificate, the PD certificate, and any other documents that we talk about that we end up putting out there. Next slide. There we are. Now I can introduce us. This is Ken Darsney. He is from the Franklin Middle School. He's the principal at Franklin Middle School. That's a 4 through 8 school with about 360 kids, and this is his 3rd year there. He's been in education for 23 years, and for 13 as administrator at different schools or districts throughout the state. For 17 years, he's been on the New Hampshire Board of Excellence, and he's on the New Hampshire DOE Council for Teacher Education, and he's also part of the Plymouth State University Home Center as chair of the PPPDS. I don't even know what that is, advisory. You'll have to tell us.
Professional Development Schools.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, thanks. And also we have Heather Jenkins here. She is going to monitor the questions with me, and we are off. I guess that's it. Ken, it's up to you.
So thank you, Ann. I started with a little picture of my school here, Franklin Middle School, and as I say, we are in our 3rd year here. And yes, it's Franklin, New Hampshire, and we do have our socioeconomic challenges, but I came on board because I wanted to go someplace where I can make a difference, and Franklin certainly is the poster child of making a difference. In coming on board, the first thing that I did was to start doing some analysis of data, and the product that we used was iReady. Frankly, I'd always been an NWEA guy, but both of these products are very similar in that they provide us information about student performance and growth. I apologize for the fact that these slides are a little bit fuzzy, and I actually took them from a presentation that I made to my school board in my 1st year here, which was 1819, sorry, 1819. So the thing is that what we did with these is we had the product, the teachers were using it, they were using it in the classroom, and what it did was it produced these really, really pretty illustrations of how our students were doing. And so with all kinds of pride, I was so glad as a new administrator that I came on board. I had a new assistant principal. We were working with culture and climate in our school, and lo and behold, this is a little close-up. If you look here, it said in our fall assessment, and I don't know why it says 2019, 2020, because it was actually 18 to 19. But in our fall assessment, it says that you see this bright red that we had about 40% of our kids on tier 3, and by winter we had reduced that number to 31. Our tier 2 was staying about the same, but understanding this 10% was basically coming from the red into the yellow, and then basically our greens, which is our tier 1 students, was going from 30 to 39%. So for all intents and purposes, by our analysis, we had essentially moved 40% of our students into a different level. 20% of our students, and 1 student out of 5, into a different level. So we're really, really pleased with the results that we got from this. So we felt that this was an excellent predictor of our school SAS scores that year. Obviously, it would be the first year that I put together SAS assessments in our school. And the other major change that we made as a staff was it used to be that the SAS was only the school counselors. School counselors did the scheduling, they set up the proctors, they put the classrooms, they did all of that sort of thing. And what we did instead was we put it all upon the teaching teams. So the teaching teams took all of those trainings that we needed to do. They set up the schedules. They put together their classes and their clusters so that we would have something which would be like a teacher-owned, student-owned, really the greatest predictors of success, because we were creating the best environment. And we also did spend some time looking at the practice test for the SAS. So don't expect you to read all this, but as you can see, I took the time to look at our 17-18, which is before we came on board, and our 18-19 tests to see how we did, expecting the fact that we were going to show an unbelievable growth based on the fact that we moved all those kids from fall to winter. And then we got this, and we found out, if you take a look at this, last year's grade 3 did 31%, they went to 27. This is what we did, was we moved the kids together so we could look at the kids, how they did the previous year and how they did that year in both ELA. And you can see every single one of these categories. Boy, 7th grade, oh my gosh. It's been a while since I've looked at this. They did terribly when it came to this. And of course, we all look at ours, and we are Franklin, New Hampshire. And so many of you are probably, please don't turn your screens off and jump out and say, why the heck is some Franklin middle school principal telling all of you people from all throughout the state who has these dismal test scores, why do I have the right to tell you folks how you can use benchmark assessments and all these assessments to improve your test scores? Same sort of thing. These are our reading scores, and I don't expect you to leave this. So this is what we did. I'm going to stop here for a second. Can I stop screen sharing? I don't know. I'm just going to stop here for a second. During the summer of 2 summers ago, so it was the summer of 18, I met some folks and said, why are you using all of these products like NWEA and iReady to predict your success in your SAS scores? They all are very good tests. They're all very good measures. But at the same time, if you don't take the time to get to know what is being asked on these tests, if you're not taking the time to look at the results of the students, how they answer the questions, if you don't take the time to look at the tests and see how they're formatted and see how the students go through these tests, then how do you expect to be able to improve? And yes, unfortunately, we didn't get to take them this past spring, but we are going to take them this coming spring. So what we have done as a staff is we've taken the time, and I don't expect you all to read this. When you get this thing, if you click on the link, you can see this is the list of all the different tests that they have available, and it's free for you guys to have on the modulars by grade. So each of these are available, and when you go to NHARAS, which is now called Cambium, you can find all of the assessments to give to your kids. Oh my gosh, how do we go back? Sorry, folks. Oh, I'm back. So what we did as a staff is we all got together and we created, see if that's the next slide. Okay. So why are we using interim and modular assessments? And this is taking less time than I thought, so I hope you have a lot of questions at the end, but hopefully this will be helpful. We use interim and modular assessments because, first of all, it's not about teaching to test. It's about using data to drive instruction. And no matter what test you use, and I saw that some of you had some questions about what benchmark tests that you use that go with your reading, writing, math programs that you have, your science programs, and all those are all valid. But the SAS, both the interims and the modulars, do have the ability for you to take a look at your results and not only see how they answer individual questions, but it can give you an idea by student or by group how it is that they, just like anything else, like the same thing that they have in the NWAs or the iReadies, the ability to take a look at where your student weaknesses and strengths are, and for you to change how you do your instruction in order to prepare for the final test. And individualization also, to see individual scores. And we do use the results from our SAS tests, our interims and modulars, for individualization, not only when we do flexible grouping here at the school, but also when we qualify kids for Title I and special ed services. That's one of the data points that we use for information. Let me take a minute and tell you a little bit about Franklin Middle School. We're, as I said earlier, it's a K-8 school. We've divided our school in the last 2 years into 2 academies. So we have essentially 2 identical schools working side by side in the school. And the reason we do this is because half of our students are in each one of the academies, and the academies are grades 4 through 6 in the lower grades we call the middle school, and 7 and 8 in the upper grades. Once we assign a student to an academy, they're in that academy for the rest of their time. So we are able to individualize students, individualize instruction because of the fact that we own those kids, in some cases for as many as 3 years, with the same team of teachers in either what we call the middle school or the upstairs prep school. So it allows you to use these data points for Title I and SPED. This is really important. As far as I'm concerned, this is probably among the most important things that I'm hoping you're going to learn from this webinar. Our teachers, time and time and time again, and I'm sure you folks do the same things, or you may have colleagues who do the same thing. While it is that the tests are going on, you're looking over the kids' shoulders and you're looking at the questions that they're being asked and the questions they're answering and the difficulty they have in answering the questions. And you're saying, oh my God, these kids can't do this. They can't. This is too hard. Well, folks, I have to tell you, the honest truth is they're not going away. So no matter how much time we put or we invest in trying to explain to the Department of Ed or anybody else that these tests are not valid, they're going to be administered in the spring of this year. They're going to be expected to be administered, and at the end, the results are going to be public. So therefore, and there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be taking a look at us in school, and we're right in the trenches here in Franklin, New Hampshire, looking at our results and determining whether or not we did a good job during this whole time. I don't want to get you folks discouraged, but the best way that you're going to ensure that the students are going to do well at them is to have them to spend a lot of time looking at them. And the modulars, as you can see from the earliest slide that I showed, and you'll have the link to it, I think there's 85, but there really is a number of those tests. And then the other thing is that testing fatigue and frustration is a reality. The students, if they are having difficulty navigating through these tests, going back to the reading and rereading, answering the questions in the reading test, answering the questions in writing, when it comes to the science, coming up with ways to demonstrate what they know in the different topics in science, because of the fact that a lot of those are trying to look like they're assessing the students' knowledge and ability to synthesize. If it is that they have difficulty, for example, putting in a fraction to give their answer because they can't figure out how to manipulate the numbers through the matrices, through the questions, and not only are they going to get fatigued, they're going to get frustrated. By the time you're halfway through the test, the kids are going to shut down and just put down anything to get it done with. Most importantly, and I have to say for Franklin, New Hampshire, this was one of the biggest selling points for us, is it's at no cost. We ran out of a lot of our funding that was necessary for some of our other tests and some of our other materials, and this was something that we could be able to use for free and go into the classrooms and show what the questions are and have discussions about them. And again, last but not least, it is the only public information to evaluate and compare schools. Nobody's going to allow you to take the other stuff that you're doing to put it up and to be able to say, this is what we're doing. And this proves that our results are not valid. You can try it at all, but I don't see us being able to do that. Let's see what else I got in here. All right, so let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Bear with me, please. No, let me.
Can I stop and ask a couple questions that have come in?
Please, by all means.
So the first was on the link that you had on a previous page. Is that live?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This one. Oh.
Whoop.
Yes. This right here.
I think
yeah. When you get it, if you click it, oh, good. It'll take you to, and I made it so it's shareable on the web. So these are, and we look at them for grade 3 to 8 because, and again, I'm not using this webinar as a way for you folks to learn how to navigate through SAS. So I'm going to tell you how to do that, okay, in a minute, okay? But you don't have to give grade 4 modulars to grade 4 students or 5 or whatever it is. You can give modulars to different grades of students, and there's ways for you to navigate through them and to assign them different ways. Obviously, you can do that because we gave interim tests this fall to all of our students in the previous year. So yes, it's live. Other questions?
Yep, we have one more. She said, I love using the modulars with my students as a teacher and now as an administrator. One problem we are running into this year is that the writing modulars, or with the writing modulars, we have found that they have to be completed in one setting. You can't save them. Is that true? I was going to check that because I'm not sure if that's true or not.
I can't answer that, but I'm going to tell you now that you've said that, we'll try it out in the classrooms this week and see if we can find that the answer to that. And if that's the case, then we do have the ability to sort of, I mean, here's the point. If this is working as a tool for us, that's great. If there are parts of the tool that are difficult to navigate through, or if there are parts of the tool that we feel are not helpful to us, asking the state to provide us with some help from this and sort of go directly into Cambium is not unheard of. I get the feeling in talking with the folks when I get involved with the DOE is that they really, really want us to, they really want us to use these tools. So there's that. I think you had a question about math assessments too, but.
Oh yes, there's a question about how do you use the modulars with Eureka, or to extend that with any program, any math program, reading program?
Well, that's a really good question. And using the modulars and the interim assessments is not a substitution for using the programs that you have in your school. We just got rid of Gold Math in our math programs, and we just instituted in grades K through 5 Zern math, which the teachers love, by the way. And it does have benchmark assessments, and they use them to navigate through them. And in grades 6, 7, 8, for now, we're using Glencoe Maths, but if somebody has some better ideas, I'll be willing to take them, so send me an email. We're only going to use them for the rest of this year, for next year, because we haven't had time to look at anything else like you. We've been trying to stay alive here in Franklin. But none of these assessments are designed to supplant the instruction that you're doing that's good teaching. And frankly, my experiences in working at different schools is that good teaching, working on your teaching, absolutely improves test scores. The point that I'm trying to make is that it would really be a bad decision not to at least expose your kids to them. So I got this thing up here, and I'm going to try to sort of show you a couple things.
Eureka. One of the ways I've been doing, connecting, like if you have whatever your math program is, even if you wrote it yourself, you'll know what the standards are that you've just taught.
Good point. So
yeah. OA 1 and 6 and all the OAs, give the operation and algebraic thinking test. You know, if you're especially Eureka actually works pretty well because each module in Eureka it's done when it's done. So you could give the modular that correlates. And you can write to me. I'll send you, you'll see my email at the end. You can write and I can give you some more information. We can talk about it. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
So let me walk around a couple of things that I use here. Go back to my presentation just as a reminder. The first thing is rosters. Interestingly enough, you really don't need rosters for your students if you're just giving the end of the year's test. The kids are all listed as part of your student body. You give them, you open up the test, you give them the number, and they take the test, and it's done. But if you're going to use these programs, making up rosters, see if I can find a roster. I hope that we are confidential and you're not going to look at any kids' names, but oh, really important, folks. All of my teachers are school tests coordinators. And the reason I made them test coordinators, especially my special educators, is because of the fact that trying to give them permissions to navigate around for results of kids that aren't necessarily their kids is really kind of tough. But I do have rosters, and the reason I have rosters is because, see if I can show you my rosters. Yeah. The reason I have rosters is because, I'll take a random teacher, is because I have teachers, you can see Winnie Prep 7th and Winnie Prep 8. Oh, by the way, our school's divided into two schools. The one on one side is called the Winnie and the other is called the Pemmy. And that's because we have rivers on both sides of us here in Franklin. One's the Winnie, one's the Pemmy, so that's how we named them. And they both go into the Merrimack, so it really is kind of cool. But I have rosters for Rob because Rob teaches 7th and 8th grade math on the Winnie side. So therefore, what we've created is those rostered for him so that he can literally look at only his kids' results. And it's not because of the fact that I don't want him to be confused with all the 7th graders, but if instead I just gave him access to all the 7th grades, he wouldn't be able to control out what his kids' results are by class. And we'll see if we can take a minute. And my teachers navigate around this a lot more than I do. But so anyhow, making up rosters. And yes, I'm going to tell you right now that rosters are a lot of work to do. But if you have a good student information system, there's templates to be able to do that. Upload rosters. There's a template to be able to use that, and the template allows you to do it. And if you use the templates, and it really is kind of important. And basically, all of my teachers have their own rosters of their kids, but my special educators have access to all the rosters, so that if they are looking at a kid's results, they don't have to go digging around, ask the teacher's permission to take a look at that. So that's a little bit about rosters. What else did I say on this on the list?
Can I add something about rosters?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you don't need rosters to give the test, which you probably figured out. You don't have a roster. You have somebody's given the test. When you give the modulars, if you give the modulars to your students and you don't have a roster, that's okay. You still be able to see the results. If your friend next door sets up the session and gives the test to your students, you will not be able to see the results unless you have rosters. And for the summatives, you have to have rosters in order to see the results. That's it.
So now a word from our sponsor. My very good friend Gail Bourne, and I don't know if any of you folks know her, but she is the director of curriculum instruction, I think, for the lower grades at Laconia, and I'm a Laconia resident, and I taught in the Laconia School District a number of years back. And Gail was the one who said to me, setting up the rosters in the beginning is really, it can be a lot of hard work. I have a great student information system. I can create spreadsheets. I can take the kids' names and put them onto the spreadsheets, and it's done. It's that simple. And if you have a good, we have, and I can make spreadsheets of kids' lists and class lists and all that kind of stuff and upload it to the rosters. In the beginning, it is a little bit of a challenge because you have to put in all the things the way that they like it. But once you get used to doing it and putting in the right name of your school, anyhow, you get some help. If you need help from it, if you call the help desk, right away they'll help you through it. Now, let me tell you about the assessment viewing application. And this is something which is really, they were using it today in one of my 5th grade math classes, math, because the teacher is working on this, and before he administers the modulars, he wants the kids to be familiar. So he went to like numbers and operations, and just like I'm doing right now. And the way that our school is set up is I have 18 classrooms, and our classrooms are divided into 3. We have A kids, Tuesday, Wednesday kids. We have B kids, Thursday, Friday kids, and we have fully remote kids. Each one of our classrooms has all 3 of the kids, and we're simultaneously zooming out. And how you do it is up to you. But the thing is that what Dave was doing today in his classroom was literally putting this up in front of his class, and with the kids in the classroom and the kids on Zoom. And I don't know if this is the question, he'd say, okay, this is what there is. How would you solve this? And they had conversations about solving it. So the bottom line is that each one of the modulars, in many cases, has ways to have you make these teachable moments, to have conversations about how they do this. So not only are you talking about the kinds of questions that they're likely to be asked, but the other thing is the fact that you have to figure out, oh, I don't even know how to put these numbers in here. See, they're not working. So, there's a 2 and then a 1. So having the kids play around with how you get these things in here and out of there is really kind of important, because I talked about that whole validity thing. And you have the ability to go between, there's only 2 questions in this question, but again, it has the opportunity for you to go through these with your kids live in the classroom and say, this is what the test is going to look like. These are the way you're going to ask the questions. This is how you put the numbers in here. And see, I got that done. So if it seems like I'm not doing well at it, it's because I'm not smarter than the 5th grader. So I'm going to leave that site. So the assessment viewing application is a way for you to take time in your classrooms and look at the kids. And yes, it does not have answers to it, so you're going to have to be smarter than the kids that are taking them. But it does give you the opportunity to go through the test with your kids and to do that. Okay, let me see what else I was going to talk about. I'm getting better at this, can you tell? Okay, that's assessment viewing. Test administration, every member of my staff is expected to be a test administrator. As a matter of fact, we put up the certificates and we required them in the fall to become not only in-person test administrators, but remote test administrators. And folks, I don't know how many of you have been informed of this, but the Department of Ed looks like they're going to be insisting that all of our spring testing be done in person. I gone back and forth with them on that information. Is that correct, Ann?
That is correct. Yep, they're in person. Yep.
So if you first heard it from, if you haven't heard it, you first heard it from us. And the thing is that we as a school want to make sure that we get as many of our kids tested, because we want to make sure that we have enough results so that we can at least take a look at them and analyze them in live time. Is it going to be the fact that I have, since I've been here, only 2 years of test results to take a look at? Absolutely not. But at the same time, you got to have it in order to make it better. Small aside, I like golf. I like just playing golf. One time I said to my brother, why do you count the strokes? Aren't you just out here to have fun? He says, how do you expect to get better if you don't count the strokes? So folks, that's what we're doing. We're counting the strokes. So sorry about that if you don't like golf. So we are looking at test administration. So test administration, what we did was, we had done live sessions. We had done at-home sessions. We did remote sessions. As a matter of fact, we did remote sessions with the kids in person. Until the time comes that we have to do these all in person, as much practice as you can with them to get them. We fortunately have 4 academic classes, the regular academics. We have allied arts, and we have a time period, a 55-minute block we call WIN, What I Need Now. Many schools have intervention blocks. We try to use a lot of those intervention blocks for it, but I will tell you that I've gotten a commitment from every member of our staff. I don't care if they teach social studies, science, math, English language arts, if they're allied arts teachers, if they're Title I folks, special ed, all of us are committed to giving our kids time for this. So if we got to take time out of some of our other academic classes, no, I don't want academics to suffer, but at the same time, if we could take a little bit of time And these things don't take much time. Anne, remind me, is it less than 20 minutes most cases?
The assessments?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're 9 to 12 questions, 8 to 12 questions on the math. And the ELA, they have to read a piece first. So, you know, it depends on how fast they read, but it's, they should be able to do it in a 40-minute period.
So there's that. And the other thing is that this information is our information. It's not something that the state is going to be checking up on, see what you're doing. Yes, to a certain extent, administrators can take a look at the results of the tests that are going on. But if there are any administrators here, if you use these things to determine whether or not your teachers are doing their job, it's really going to make it difficulty. I say to the teachers, this is a tool for us to use, and what I want you to do is use them to drive instruction and not to decide whether or not you're doing a good job. But we do have to. So that's administering the assessments. They're all here. If you haven't done this, we could play around. You know what else we did with these a little bit before we got going with the kids in the fall? We used them ourselves on each other just so that we could get a feel for it, so that by the time we were in the classroom. So feel free to, I've taken and started a test under a kid's number and then just didn't finish the test, so you didn't get valid results, but at least you could get an idea of what the kids were seeing, what they had to lock into, and all that sort of thing. So we had some fun with that. Let's see what else I got here. Tide reporting. There's two things in Tide, and I use them both. I don't need that. I'm leaving that. I don't need this. Uh-oh. Okay. There's two things that we have to remember in Tide. And give me a break, because I don't have to usually do this in front of people. So sometimes I get a little bit flummoxed in it. Again, I am the district coordinator, but I go into school coordinator when I do this because I want to see what the teachers see. Oh, okay. So please don't tell your friends, because this information is for my staff only, but we do have the ability to look at our tests that we did in the fall. And if you haven't done this, I recommend that you do so, because there's some really good stuff in this. And yes, you can see my colors are not very good. There's a lot of red on this page, but we have been using our interims. You will see that, oh my gosh, our interims have been really strong because we did them, but benchmark math and benchmark science, we're doing a lot with science. We need to do a lot more with math and ELA. And the reason we haven't done too much up until now is because we basically decided as a staff that we're going to use the months of March and April to do all of this work. Up until now, we've just been trying to figure out a way to get through the interim, which we did get through by the 10th or 11th of November. As you see, those are the results that we have. But let's see if I can remember. Just go to this.
And instead of showing student names, can we just, because I'm not sure that, can we just point people to come to either watch the video that demonstrates success made and it's on YouTube, or come to the next webinar? I'm just worried about showing names.
Yeah, because I just realized, because we're recording this, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, just so you, okay, here's the thing. When I have to look for this stuff, usually what I need to do is close my office door and cruise through these and look for them, because all of this information is in here and we can take a look at them. That's very good advice. And take the time to look at these, look at the kids' results, look at the bars that talk about what the different skills that are involved, and use this. And our teachers are using this right now today as another measure to be able to look at our kids. And the other thing we have is, well, anyhow, yeah, you're right. I just want you to know, if you don't use that, if you don't use ORS, which also is our old stuff, to look at results,
Yeah,
those are the two things we use.
Prior years, so that's great.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think I use the score reports. Obviously, there's nothing for 18, 19, but yeah. So coming to these places, to me, is a good source that we use for information for us. And this is the report that I showed you earlier in a couple of slides ago that talked about our performance against the state for the last number of years. I got some of this information out of here and some of this information out of the website, but I'm not going to waste your time too much on this. But just to tell you, I'm using this to illustrate the fact that as an administrator and as an administrative team, we do look at data. And the reason we look at data is because of the fact that we really want to try to see what we can do to improve our test scores and just demonstrate to the community that all of the efforts that we're making to make this school a trauma-sensitive school, to take care of their emotional and social needs, to address our socioeconomic difficulties, and once we overcome them, to have the kids demonstrate that they can show what they know. So those are the tools that I recommend that you go through, and as I say, take a little bit of time and look at what you can find, and if you can't find them, ask your administrator what to do. So
one great way to look at the reports is that you can actually see how each student did, obviously, but you can also see all the questions that you did, that the kids did well on, and the questions that they all did poorly on. So if they all do really well on questions 3, 5, and 7, you can pat yourself on the back and say, yay. But if let's say none of them get question 14, you can look at question 14 and go, oh my gosh, what did I say that day that confused them so much? And that's how you change. That's how the schools change, is by change. You then have to go and look at your instruction and change it. And that's what makes the difference, not the chasing the child. Does that make sense?
Well, Ann, I'm glad that you brought that up, because of the fact that as a staff, and not just here, my previous school was in Southampton, what we would do is we fortunately had a very small student body, so we could really not micromanage, but we would certainly break down students' answers, and they were easy to digest. And interestingly enough, it's not that they all got number 14 wrong, but in many cases, we'd find that they all gave the same wrong answer to 14. And sometimes it would come down to the fact that they go, oh, our kids don't use simplify fractions, they use reduce, and they couldn't figure out what that word was. So those sorts of very simple understandings about language that's involved in the test is really kind of important. So that's why the assessment viewing application is not just something that you should be doing with your kids in the classroom. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but it doesn't hurt to take some time and at least cruise through them on your own time to see what the questions are and how they're worded, so that you can have an idea of how they're going to come about. Oh, and when I sent this to Ann, I put a comma in that so it didn't come out like so there is no comma at .org, but that's in there someplace else. There's your help desk. Am I done?
Oh, yep. I can talk about these slides here. If you go back up one.
That one or this one?
Yep, that one's good. This is the demonstrate. Oh, well, let's do that one. It can be if you have a question and you can't get a hold of us, or nobody in your school knows, or even quicker, just call Cambium or write to them. Calling them, I found, is the easiest. If it's something you need an answer to right away, they will get it for you. They always answer, and they usually know the answer. Sometimes they have to put it up the tree. No, how do you say that? Whatever it is. Next slide. Yeah.
Next slide, yeah.
This is Demonstrated Success's main website, the front page of the website. And if you go to the next page, or just click, if you click on this part right here that says webinars, yep. I think if you just click, it'll bring it up, or just go to the next, yeah. You can find a list of upcoming webinars. These are the ones that are coming, and you can register page, and that's all right, this is good. Go to the next one. And this is a list of past webinars, and you can click on these links and go to watch the videos, have access to any of the materials that were used that day. And we've got lots of them out there. And the next one. And this is our YouTube page. We've got lots of little, just search for whatever webinar you're looking for. Just use the keyword. And, oh yeah, there's a, Heather, the other person who was on here, is running a program called the New Hampshire SAS Modular PD programs, put on by the DOE. And she's working with schools to help them start using these SAS, the modular systems, just the way Ken's been talking about. And next. Oh, you can find us on social media, all these places. If you're on all these places, and we have coupons and stories and pictures, and so definitely find us and follow us. I think that's it.